If you run a medical or dental practice, you've probably been told you should automate your front office. What nobody tells you is the one thing that actually matters when you do it in healthcare, where your patient data lives. In the next half hour, I'll show you what n8n is, why it's the right automation tool the moment patient data is involved, and how the patient recall system from our last video actually gets built, node by node. Then I'll show you how to host it the right way, without putting protected health information somewhere it doesn't belong. No code, no fluff. Let's open it up. This is n8n, and before we touch a single setting, let me tell you what you're looking at in plain language. Workflow automation is just this: connecting the apps you already use. Your scheduling tool, your email, your texting service, your spreadsheets, so that routine work happens without a human sitting there clicking. n8n is the tool that wires those apps together. The simplest way to picture it is a flowchart that runs itself. Each of these boxes is a step. We call them nodes. The lines between them are the order things happen in. Work enters on the left, flows through each step, and comes out the other side. Done. Every workflow you'll ever build has 3 ingredients, and I want you to hold on to these 3 words for the rest of the video. First, a trigger, the thing that starts it. Second, nodes, the steps that actually do the work. And third, data, information flowing from one step to the next. That's the whole mental model. Trigger, nodes, data. And the best part for a busy practice owner, you don't write code. You drag a step onto the canvas, connect it, and fill in a plain form. If you can describe what you want to happen, you can build it here. Now, if you've looked into automation at all, you've heard of Zapier and Make. They're popular, they're polished, and for a lot of businesses, they're a fine choice. So why am I steering you toward n8n? There's one reason that outweighs everything else, and it's the reason this channel exists. Zapier and Make are cloud only. That means your data, including anything about a patient, flows through their servers. You don't control where it sits or who can touch it, and you're entirely dependent on whether they'll sign a business associate agreement with you, and on their terms. n8n is different in exactly the way that matters. n8n can be self-hosted. It can run inside an environment that you control. So protected health information never has to leave infrastructure you've placed under a BAA. In healthcare, that single capability is the whole game. There are a few smaller reasons too. n8n is source available and self-hostable. It doesn't trap you in per-task pricing that balloons as you grow. And it has the strongest library of AI and agent tools of any platform in this space, which matters more every month. Let me be fair though, Zapier and Make are genuinely good tools. If you're automating a newsletter sign-up or an internal Slack notification, something with no patient data in it, use whatever you like. But the moment a patient's name, phone number, or appointment touches that flow, the hosting question changes the answer. And that's why we build on n8n. One honest note before we go on, n8n can run in a compliant setup, but what I'm about to demo runs on n8n's hosted cloud with fake data. So think of self-hosting as a capability we'll set up properly later, not something the demo screen itself is certifying. That brings us to a fork in the road because there are 2 ways to run n8n, and you need to know which is which. The first is n8n Cloud. n8n hosts it for you, you log in through a browser, and you're building in 2 minutes. It's perfect for learning and perfect for any automation that doesn't involve patient data. But, and this is the part to remember, n8n's cloud does not sign a BAA. So it is not your path for real PHI. The second is self-hosted. Here, n8n runs on infrastructure you control. For most practices, that's a small server on something like AWS under a signed BAA. That's the compliant path, and it's exactly what we'll walk through in the deployment section near the end. So here's how we'll play it. We'll learn the concepts and build the whole recall system on the easy cloud version, where nothing is at stake, and then I'll show you the real compliant way to deploy it. And there's a third option I'll come back to at the very end, a healthcare native platform called Keragon that's HIPAA ready right out of the box for folks who'd rather not manage their own server at all. Quick disclosure, Keragon is an affiliate partner of ours. Hold that thought. It'll make a lot more sense once you've seen what the compliance setup actually involves. Okay, the heart of the video. I'm going to teach you the 6 building blocks of any n8n workflow. And I'm going to teach them on the exact nodes we'll use to build the recall system. So by the time we build it for real, none of this is new. First, triggers. Remember, that's the thing that starts a workflow. n8n gives you several kinds. A schedule trigger fires on a clock, say, every morning at 8. A webhook fires when another app pokes it. There are triggers for a new row in a sheet or an incoming message. For our recall system, we'll use 2. This schedule trigger, to go looking for overdue patients each morning, and later, a webhook that fires the instant a patient books. Trigger first, always. Nothing runs until something starts it. Next, action nodes, the do steps. These are the apps doing the work. Google Sheets, Gmail, Twilio for texts and calls, cal.com for booking, and a generic HTTP node that can talk to almost anything else. Watch what happens the first time you add one. n8n asks you to connect your account once, here, with a credential. You do it a single time, securely, and every future node for that app just reuses it. That one-time login trips people up, so I wanted you to see it's nothing scary. Now, the concept that unlocks everything, data passing. Each node hands its output to the next one. So this texting node can reach back and grab the patient's name and ID from an earlier step and drop them right into the message. That's how a workflow personalizes itself. The data just flows down the chain. One honest wrinkle, because it explains how we build later. A few nodes, Twilio's is the classic, replace the item's data with their own response after they run. So every step after the text has to reach back to the original patient record, not just grab the last thing. Keep that in your back pocket. It's why the build is shaped the way it is. Fourth, branching, the if this, then that step. An if node looks at a condition and sends the flow down one of 2 paths. Ours asks a simple question. Has this patient booked yet? If they haven't, keep nudging them. If they have, stop. 1 node, 2 roads. Fifth, loops. Most of the time, you're not handling one patient. You've got a whole list of people overdue for a visit. A loop says, do this same set of steps once for every patient in the list. We set it to handle 1 patient at a time, cleanly, start to finish, then move to the next. And sixth, reaching real people, texts and phone calls, both through Twilio. n8n can send an automated text reminder, and it can place an automated voice call. A lot is fully hands-off. But part of being responsible here is knowing what should still route to a human. A patient who replies with a real question, for instance. Automate the nudge, keep a person on the conversation. That's all 6. Trigger, action nodes, data passing, branching, loops, and outreach. Now let's snap them together into something real. Here's what we're building in 1 sentence. Every morning, find the patients overdue for a visit. Reach out across text, then email, then a call until they book. And the second they book, stop. 3 parts. Find, reach, book. We start in the find group. The schedule trigger wakes the workflow each morning. It hands off to a Google Sheets node that reads our patient list. Now, important, this spreadsheet is standing in for your EHR. In a real engagement, you'd swap it for an EHR connector or a secure export your system already produces. The point of today's demo is the shape of the automation with fake data, so I can show you everything safely. Next, a filter node. Keep overdue only. It checks each patient's last visit against the right window. A yearly checkup is overdue after 12 months, a diabetes follow-up after 3, a post-op after 2 weeks. Out of 10 patients, 6 are overdue. Only those 6 move on. And here's the seed I'll pay off at the end. Because n8n can run inside your own environment, patient data never leaves your control. That's the Section 7 payoff. I'll come right back to it. Now, the reach group, the escalation. The loop takes our 6 patients one at a time, and each one walks this row. Day 1, send a text. A friendly note that they're due with a 1-tap link to rebook. Then the workflow waits. After the wait, watch this. It rereads that patient's status from the sheet before doing anything else. Then an if node asks, still pending? If they've already booked, they exit right here. No more messages. If they're still pending, we continue. Day 3, send an email. Same idea, same booking link. Wait again, reread again. Are they still pending? Day 5, an automated voice call as the final nudge. And then the loop comes back around for the next patient. The thing I want you to really see is that reread before every step. That's what makes the system humane. Nobody gets a voicemail the day after they've already booked because the workflow keeps checking reality before it acts. So how does it know someone booked? That's the book workflow, the second, smaller one, and notice it lives on its own canvas. That's on purpose. Find and Reach run on a schedule. Every morning at 8. Book can't wait for a clock. It has to fire the instant a patient books. Different jobs, different triggers, so they're two separate workflows. Remember the webhook trigger from earlier? When a patient books through the link, our scheduling tool, cal.com, instantly pokes this webhook. n8n pulls the patient's ID and their new appointment time out of the booking and updates their row in the sheet. Status, booked. Watch Avery here. The moment Avery books, that row flips from pending to booked, live. And that one column is the secret handshake between the two workflows. Book writes booked. Reach reads it on every reread and stops. Two simple workflows, one shared column, and the whole thing governs itself. I'm keeping this deliberately tight. No error handling, no retries, none of the heavier production machinery. That's real engagement territory and a topic for later videos. What you've got here is the complete working shape of a patient recall system. Everything you just saw, we built on n8n Cloud, great for learning, not for real patient data. So let's talk about doing it for real. There are two honest ways forward, and I'll give you both. The first is to self-host n8n on infrastructure you control. Here's the path at a glance. You start with an AWS account and a signed business associate agreement with AWS. That's the foundation that makes the rest of it compliant. On that account, you stand up a small server. You install n8n on it, usually packaged with a tool called Docker that keeps the setup clean and repeatable. You set up automatic backups so you never lose your workflows or data. And you add basic monitoring so you know it's healthy and running. Then the part people forget. Every other service in your flow that touches patient data needs its own BAA too. Your texting and voice provider, your email, your EHR connector. And a heads up that trips people up. The free tiers can't sign one. You'll need paid Google Workspace and Twilio's Security Edition, not the default accounts you'd spin up to follow along. The chain is only as compliant as its weakest link. I'm not going to pretend that's a 5-minute job. It's real infrastructure work, and getting it wrong has real consequences. Doing this compliantly, with real patient data, is the part most practices get wrong. That's exactly what we handle. So if that felt like a lot, here's the shortcut, and it's the third option I promised you at the start. There's a platform called Keragon built specifically for healthcare. It's HIPAA ready by default, it will sign a BAA with you, and it comes with native connectors to the EHRs you actually use. In plain terms, it removes the go stand up compliant cloud infrastructure yourself problem entirely. Here's the honest comparison. Everything you learned today about how to think about these workflows, triggers, branching, loops, stopping when someone books, carries straight over. Keragon trades away some of n8n's flexibility and low cost in exchange for compliance out of the box and a much faster setup. n8n is still the better place to learn, to stay flexible, and to handle anything without patient data. Keragon shines when you want compliant, done fast, and you'd rather not babysit a server. Full transparency, I'm a Keragon affiliate, so the link in the description supports the channel. I'd send you there regardless because it solves the exact problem this whole section is about. If you'd rather have it set up for you, either the hardened n8n route or Keragon, that's what a working session with us is for. So that's the whole picture. You know what n8n is, you know that in healthcare, the real question is always where your data lives. You've watched the patient recall system get built node by node, and you've got two honest ways to run it compliantly. Self-host it, or let a healthcare native platform like Keragon carry the compliance for you. To make the next step easy, I've put together a free deployment checklist, the n8n on AWS setup plus BAA notes. So you're not doing this from memory. It's the first link in the description. And if you'd rather not self-host at all, the Keragon link is right below it. If you want any of this built and deployed for your practice, that's exactly what we do at NeuroSolutions. Reach out about a working session. Subscribe so you catch the next build, and I'll see you there.